Section 9.5 focuses on solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. There are lots of ways to solve quadratics. We will use the quadratic formula. You will not be given this formula on your test, so you are going to want to make sure that you memorize it. Our first quadratic, x squared plus 8x plus 15 equals 0. We're going to solve using the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. What this does is this gives us our solutions to the equation, the place where where our graph crosses the x-axis when y equals 0. Now, you want to make sure that your quadratic equation is in standard form. This one is in standard form. The next one we do will not be in standard form. Lead off with your x squared term, and then you should have your term that has an x in it next, and then your constant, and it should be equal to 0. Then substitute in. Standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So the constant is c, the coefficient of x is b, and the coefficient of x squared is a. So the negative b means the opposite of b. Since b is positive 8 here, the opposite of b is negative 8 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 8 squared, minus 4 times a, x squared has a coefficient of 1, times c, all over 2 times a. And then we need to simplify. Negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 64 minus 60 all over 2. X equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 4 all over 2. X equals negative 8 plus or minus 2, because the square root of 4 is 2, over 2. And we have two possible solutions here. The first one, x equals negative 8 plus 2 divided by 2. So that's negative 6 divided by 2, which is negative 3. And then the second one, x equals negative 8 minus 2, hence the plus or minus. So negative 10 divided by 2, which is negative 5. So my two solutions are negative 5 and negative 3. Now this quadratic is not solved, is not in standard form. So I'm going to subtract 2x and subtract 7 from both sides. That will put it in standard form for me. So 4x squared minus 2x minus 7 equals 0. A is 4. B is negative 2. You always want to take the sign that's in front of your coefficient or your constant, and C is negative 7. Now let's use the quadratic formula. X equals the opposite of b. Since b is negative 2 here, the opposite of b is positive 2, plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is negative 7, all over 2 times a, so 2 times 4. X equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus 4 times 4 times negative 7 is negative 112, so minus negative 112 all over 8. X is equal to 2 plus or minus the square root of 116 all over 8. And then 116 is not a perfect square, so you may be asked to give your answer in exact form. If you're asked for exact form, you'll leave your answer like this. 2 plus or minus the square root of 116 divided by 8 equals x. If you're asked to approximate, you'll give a decimal. So 2 plus or minus 10.77 divided by 8. And then we have the same setup here. 2 plus 10.77 divided by 8 will give us one solution. So that's 12.77 divided by 8, which is 1.596. So we'll say 1.60. And then 2 minus 10.77 divided by 8 is negative 1.096, so 1.10. And so if I'm asked for an approximate solution, 1.10 and 1.60 would be the two solutions.